Guys, welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have Joel Bein with us. He is a former CEO and current Chief of Content and Coaching Officer at Career Hackers. He got acquired recently, so we're going to talk about this, his career, and how to build a successful career, because that's what he does at Career Hackers. Joel, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about Career Hackers?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Appreciate it. So our mission at Career Hackers is to help people discover and do what makes them come alive. So that's what makes me come alive, is supporting people in figuring out what makes them tick and getting curious and creative and empowered to forge that career path and not rely on these third-party credentials, relying on a degree or a job application or anything. You can be your own credential and you can prove your value through creating portfolios, creating customized pitches to companies. So there's a lot you can do in 2023 with the World Wide Web to create value specifically for a company and basically embody an entrepreneurial mindset as a job hunter, as whatever place you are in your career, to think like an entrepreneur, whether or not you are officially an entrepreneur. I actually say that everyone's an entrepreneur because you are the CEO of Me Incorporated, and seeing yourself as a business, seeing yourself as a brand, and then you're selling your services, you're marketing your services. And that's the mindset we're seeking to share with as many people on the planet as possible with Career Hackers. When we have many people kind of stuck in what I call 20th century mindset, which is kind of following the rules. Seth Godin will call this being a cog in a wheel. And we want people to move to a 21st century mindset of empowerment and creativity and artistry. So that's what makes me tick. And yeah, I kind of shifted careers a few years ago. And after I started following our founder, Isaac Morehouse, who's been at this for years. And I pitched him and I made a big career change because I was really lit up by his mission and his values and his orbit, his ecosystem of this mindset of new paradigms in career and education. And I kind of started following him really closely and eventually pitched my way in to work for his company. And now kind of I'm leading the charge with that now.
Right. What's the business model at Career Hackers? How much do you guys charge to help who accomplish what exactly?
Yeah, so we sort of shifted our revenue model about a year ago, and that led to our recent acquisition. And we're still in this sort of building a new foundation stage of getting our ducks in a row and getting new avenues and partnerships built for monetization strategies. But essentially what we've been doing is we have our newsletter called the Daily Job Hunt newsletter that I'm sending out every day. And we have over 100,000 subscribers there. And we've created some content partnerships with career launch programs. And then I'm beginning to do one-on-one coaching with people with a specific type of coaching that's helping people eliminate their limiting beliefs that are hanging out in the subconscious mind. So that's kind of like sort of a high ticket revenue stream, high ticket coaching service for clearing out limiting beliefs that I can talk more about. So
Sure,
that's kind of
tell
the
us.
basic revenue model right now.
Okay, so tell us about these limiting beliefs that people have. Also, tell us in the process if you work more with executives rather than starters in this job market.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll start with the second question. We basically, with this coaching, I've been more focused on working with executives and sales professionals and people more established in their careers, entrepreneurs, and assisting them with letting go of that self-doubt, letting go of that imposter syndrome, letting go of that anxiety, call resistance for sales professionals, these types of things. And then with the newsletter, we're focusing more on people who are maybe trying to break into new careers, land new jobs earlier on in their journey. So there's kind of two different lanes we're traveling in. But the coaching, yeah, it's a really powerful tool. I've been doing lots of personal growth work myself over the past 10 plus years, and this tool has been second to none in terms of efficacy and impact to quickly and permanently remove limiting beliefs. So like an example to demonstrate that is like once upon a time you might have believed Santa Claus is real, right? And one day you realize that's not true, and from that day on, you no longer believe Santa Claus is real. It was permanently gone. And so in that sense, that's what I do with limiting beliefs like I'm not worthy of success, or sales is hard, or I'm not good enough, or failure isn't safe. Things like this related to fears of failure, related to self-worth, sales, money beliefs. People have all sorts of beliefs about money. So this stuff is all just in the subconscious from the experiences we have growing up, you know. And so I can work with people and through a pretty fast and sort of left brain process, these beliefs are gone forever in like 15 minutes. Or like one belief I can take and it'll be gone forever in that 15 minutes. So it's really powerful stuff.
15 minutes. How do you do that exactly? Because I've been working it on some people in my personal life for the past 10 and tried various ways. So tell me your secrets.
Well, the best way is to show you. Um, but basically the essence is, hey, you realize that when you had an experience, maybe you had a challenging experience, maybe you had a parent discipline you, or you were trying to get good grades in school and you were kept striving for that and you were scared of getting a failing grade, or you had a particular acute experience where your dad got mad at you for getting a low grade on your report card and that like stood out in your memory, right? And so you might have created these beliefs in those experiences, and it's just a matter of realizing that you created that belief, that you are the one that made that meaning. And so the process is kind of going back into that belief and deconstructing it, deconstructing the feelings you had from the belief that you formed and kind of conflated the feelings with the belief. So that's kind of a window into it.
Because these specific individuals, for example, yeah, dug in their past and may have uncovered something. I like this approach. It's kind of the Freud approach. Forgot what it's called. Is it a psychoanalytical approach? And sometimes, yes, it dissolves, but some other times you cannot dig to one specific event in someone's childhood, for example, that had them behave in that specific way in the present, specifically in the anxious profile, for example. So what do you do in the case that you cannot have that person move on, and you know they're quite anxious and they're like, oh shit, I'm gonna fail, I can't sell, I can't do that interview, I can't get that job, that 100K a year job. If that
Yeah.
person continues facing these obstacles, what do you do?
Well, so there's two levels to it. There's identifying what the pattern is. Maybe it's fear of failure, afraid to put yourself out there, afraid for self-promotion. Kind of we kind of get a sense of what is the pattern that's coming up in your life. You're feeling anxious when you're making the sale. You're feeling anxious when you make the pitch on the sales call. Okay, that's the pattern. And then it's a matter of what are the beliefs? What's the collection of beliefs that are contributing to the pattern? So typically, once we clear out one belief, there's going to be a cluster of other beliefs that are related to that. And then over time, the pattern goes away. So like with my clients, I'll have them rank the pattern on our first call from a scale of 1 to 10, how strong that pattern is. And then each week we check on how the pattern is. Basically, we'll do belief work for that hour, and then the next week we check, is the pattern how's the pattern doing? And it's like, you see, so I mean, a client that I've worked with just for 6 weeks, she's gone down from like scale 1 to 10, like her anxiety pattern was at a 9 at the beginning, and now it's at like a 4, 6 weeks later. And so there's the pattern that we keep clearing out beliefs that are related to that pattern, and then we see the pattern dissolve over time.
Right. You write thoughtful newsletters. I read some of them on the website. You did some podcasts for a couple of years. What did you learn from writing, speaking, and thinking on your side for all these years?
Yeah. What have I learned, man? Well, I would say that writing, speaking, and thinking are all related. So one of my best pieces of advice to people is to start a podcast, because when you start a podcast, you start developing skills, you start developing communication skills, the ability to ask questions, interesting questions, the ability to respond in the moment, the ability to speak clearly, the ability to build a brand by starting a podcast, the ability to build connections to new people. It's a great way to build connections, establish relationships by just inviting people on a podcast. So it's a really powerful tool, and writing, I've found, has affected my podcasting and my thinking by getting more clear in the way I'm thinking through writing, chiseling down my sentence structures to be more succinct and impactful. All that creates more clear thinking. And so all these things are symbiotically related: thinking, speaking, talking, or thinking, speaking, writing rather. And it's a powerful creative outlet. When I started blogging in 2016, I did a 30-day blogging challenge, and that turned into 60 days. And then 2020, I did 300 days of blogging. And that consistency muscle and that ability to show up and create and publish, those are these soft skills that you develop. And that's been the foundation for this whole company emerging, is that creative consistency. So it has so much power for people in whatever route they want to go in their lives, is to show up and start creating, you know.
Do you miss music sometimes? Do you still practice music as a hobby?
Yeah, so I'm still doing music. I'm juggling, and I have a professional chamber music ensemble that I started 5 years ago now. So I still conduct 2 concerts a year. So I'm a classically trained musician and conductor, and that was my whole life in my 20s. And that's now become sort of a side passion. But I still do that, 2 concerts a year. I still make time for that every day to study my music and so forth, and to attend to that part of me. But it's much smaller percentage of my time compared to five years ago or so.
I had the music AI interview today. What are your thoughts on AI in the world of music first, and tell us about the impact of GPT in the career world after that?
Yeah. I've honestly never thought about it yet in terms of AI and music outside of, I thought about it a little bit. I mean, it's a possibility for a tool to perhaps build new creative possibilities to more swiftly generate something that's in your mind through that tool. But the thing about the AI and chat GPT that I've really thought about the most is, like, at the end of the day, to create is to be human. So even if there's a tool that can create for me, I still want to create for myself, because I get a level of fulfillment and satisfaction from the challenge of doing creative work. So I think it's my big picture answer is it's a tool like anything else, and it's definitely a revolutionary tool. It does appear, but I think, like, I'm not super afraid of it, because I think we still have these basic human needs to self-express and have challenge and have creative fulfillment. that only you can do when you are exercising your own mind independently.
Right. We tend to learn a lot with GPT. A lot of people underestimate these effects on the human brain. I've learned tons. GPT has been my number one sparring partner when it comes to learning lately. So super grateful for it. What parallels can you draw between being a conductor, music, and what you're doing now, aka growing a career or helping people grow a career?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean, the first parallel is I'm passionate about both. So I've always been a passion driven person, so much so that I was all in on my passion for music, and then this new passion to create new paradigms in education and career and to change the world, impact the world, that emerged and started to become the priority. And so it all starts from this following my gut, following what makes me come alive, right? So that's the number one principle is I would invite people to think about is what is it that makes you come alive? What's that gut telling you, follow that bliss, follow that heart, as Steve Jobs would say. So that's kind of the fuel, that's the why, that drives everything for me. And then more concretely, there's the act of again showing up daily. So I think it was actually really natural for me to do that blogging challenge and blog every day because I was already in the habit of practicing my music every single day. That's what you do as a musician. That's just your that's what you do. You just brush your teeth, you practice your scales. It's the same thing. It's part of what you do every single day. And that soft skill of creative work ethic and consistency in building skills from foundational level, understanding the learning process and learning the fundamentals of technique, right? All that is just you can transfer that to learning any new skill. Just build foundations. So I would say definitely the biggest parallel and transferable idea is the idea of showing up and towards your craft every single day.
What about conducting an orchestra and the band analogy? Each musician being an employee, having his own specific skill, his own instrument, and having all of these beautiful artists play together in a symphony. What parallels can you draw between that, and have you seen that in your own business with your employees, and how one can complete and play even better 1 + 1 = 3 type of equation
Yeah.
in a team?
Well, it's interesting. And even Seth Godin has talked about this because he's actually slightly acquainted with orchestral music world and he knows a conductor named Benjamin Zander, who's also an author. And Godin talks about this in his book, Linchpin, and how to become indispensable as an employee. He's talking about this mindset shift. And he talks about that it's actually, and I would agree that there's many orchestral musicians who are still in that employee mindset of like show up and do my job, right? And do what the job description says. And from a music standpoint, that would be like play the notes that are on the page that the composer has written and play it accurately and in time and check all those boxes so that you can fit into the orchestra with the accuracy objective standpoint, right? But the next level, I would say for both orchestral musicians and employees at a tech company or whatnot, is to move from that mindset of just show up and do what your job description is and go above and become the artist to create above and beyond, to create extra projects without anyone asking you to build social capital with your colleagues, to add that extra smile, to look for new ways to solve problems. For the musician, that's to create that extra level of musicality and a self-expression into the music that's on the page, and to add the intangible subtleties, and to be involved in the conversation amongst other musicians, and between the conductor and the musicians, where ideally you have all parties are collaborating in this highly creative and alive way, rather than anyone's just in a sort of automaton mindset of just doing what you're supposed to do. That's the 20th century cog in a wheel. Do what you're supposed to do. 21st century is become the artist and do and come alive and be creative and fulfilling and all the things. So it's a cool parallel. I love that Seth Godin makes that connection.
How do you interview CEOs? Let's say that I would be interviewing for one of your jobs. How would you take it with me? What would be the beat, and what kind of questions would you ask an accomplished human being career wise?
Well, I mean, I would take it to respond to that. I would take a step back and say, what's the setup for that call? If I'm going to have an interview, I'm only going to be interested to interview someone if I see that they've expressed specific interest in what I'm doing, and they've created a custom pitch of sorts, that they've come to me expressing, hey, I'm interested in your company. Here are specific ways I want to create value, and embodying our philosophy. Because that's the thing about career hackers, is we're teaching people to send value propositions, to send custom pitch videos, to start doing custom projects for companies, and being very specific. So if someone's looking to work for career hackers, and you make that type of approach with a customized outreach, then I'm much more interested to want to talk to you. So that would be kind of the foundation, and then the interview is kind of just more, let's get a little bit more detailed. Let's learn about your story. Let's learn about, are we a good energetic match? But I think that the interview, I've actually been thinking about this lately, like the interview piece of the hiring process is really, it's worth de-emphasizing that, I think, in the whole hiring world. It's like, let's focus on the front end, and what is the way in which the person is reaching out. Either the job hunter or the recruiter. The recruiters can make video pitches as well. Like, let's create a whole pitch economy where people are making customized, humanized, tailored outreach to set the foundation for the conversation.
Roger that. You started as the head of growth at Career Hackers, made your way to CEO. How does one do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a ride. I started even before that. Our previous brand, we rebranded last year, but I started working there in 2020, and I pitched some custom projects. I pitched myself to do some sales work and some marketing copy, and to do the podcast, and I offered to work for free, and I did a free trial for a week, and then I got the offer. And it's all just been investing in my growth and the company mission every single day, and watching the compound effect kick in. I mean, I started following Isaac, our founder, in 2016, and I started consuming all his podcasts and his blogs and his content, and creating value, sharing his posts, like creating blogs about why I loved his company, and just like started building a relationship with him, and eventually pitched him, and just continued to be in the mindset of, how do I learn every single day and keep growing? But again, it's all motivated by my why. So the why is what drives that growth. And it was almost just inevitable the way the trajectory played out, Charles, because it was like, it was almost like there was nothing else still like there's like nothing else I can think of that I would want to be doing instead. It's just like this is my purpose, this is my mission. I'm going all in. I want to keep learning. And as the company evolved, Isaac started a new company and he's like, hey, I want to give you the reins to this thing, see if you can grow it, see if we can get acquired. And then here we are. So
What's your why, and at what age did you develop that why slash how long did it take you to find your why, and is it stable, and did it change over the years?
well, it's definitely been a process of self-knowledge, self-discovery. Because again, I was obsessed. My passion was music, my first passion, right? And so it became the second passion started emerging, and the seeds were planted for it basically when I was 19, 20. When I started asking myself, what is my philosophy of education? Because I was actually studying music education in my undergraduate degree. So I was preparing myself to teach music as well as perform music. So I really started just following my curiosity about what is education? What does it mean to learn? And that's the seedlings of all of this, of all this why, of all this mission, because I really started questioning the way that children are, the paradigm of education in these conventional K through 12 school systems, which is essentially, again, the industrial model, cog in a wheel, follow directions, do what you're told. And the child isn't given the chance to learn, choose what he wants to learn, right? To follow his curiosity, because it's do the homework assignments, do the tests, do all the things that the teachers are telling you to do. And so it's not nurturing that inner motivation, right? So that's really what's driven me in all this, is that I'm trying to create new paradigms in how careers are launched so that people aren't reliant upon these institutions of school and college, and we can make those things obsolete, and we can say, hey, the individual is empowered to launch a career without just going through this conventional narrative, which is what people have been reliant on, is like, you, in order to have a good job, you have to go to college. And that's no longer true. And well, I don't think it actually ever was officially true, but it's more and more clear that it's not true, given the opportunity to be your own credential. So that's what motivates me. That's my why, is like, I want to criticize these conventional systems and these institutions by creating these new paradigms and showing the world, hey, this is how you can create and launch a career. And then that has a trickle down effect, because then the world starts seeing, oh, here are ways I can raise my children, and they can make it in, they can make a good living for themselves and have fulfillment for themselves. They don't need to go through these institutions where they're just learning a mindset of following directions, essentially, you know. So that's kind of the genesis of my why.
Pretty cool. Last question for you. I also preach for this, for people to find their ideal careers. Let's say that I want to work with Tim Ferriss, and I just tell him, look, Tim, I'm good at this, and that. I'll work for you for free, a free trial, 1 week or two, or even 1 month, the time it takes to show my value. And let's see if we can work together. A bunch of people did that with Ryan Holiday as well. Do you advise
Yeah.
most people to actually do that, or is that advice mostly specific to folks that don't have a degree?
No, I mean, that's the best way to do it, is to pitch a company or a person like a podcaster like Tim Ferriss or whatnot, with a specific value proposition, offering to work for free. But you know, Charlie Hone, who did that with Tim Ferriss in 2008, he wrote a book called Recession Proof Graduate about this, doing free work, this value proposition approach. I had Charlie on our podcast a couple years ago talking about this doing free work idea. So he was one of the sort of OGs and of this approach of creating specific value propositions and offering to work for free for authors, entrepreneurs, and this can apply to any opportunity. This is the world that I envision, is people doing this with specific proposals for specific opportunities and creating your own opportunity. You know, when I pitched Isaac, he wasn't hiring, he didn't list his a job posting. I just created that. But I would say now, you know, for Tim Ferriss, like, he's probably getting a lot of pitches. So like, you really got to do something extraordinary, because he's so much bigger than he even was, but 15 years ago. But yeah, I mean, these are not just the exceptions, and this is what I want to see the future be. The way that Ryan Holiday did it, Charlie Hone, all these approaches to launching careers. I mean, Charlie Hone had a degree. He graduated college, and then he was applying to jobs the normal way, and he wasn't getting anything in 2008 recession. And that's when he started this completely new approach of pitching free work. So this is relevant stuff, and I think it's the most exciting way to do it. It's the most fun way to do it, and it's the most effective way to do it. So go for it.
Love it. Where can people find out more about you, Joel?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. This has been fun to talk about these different topics, Charles. So yeah, careerhackers.com is our site. You can sign up for the daily job hunt newsletter that I'm putting out 6 days a week. And then thehumanliberation.co is our site that shows more about the limiting belief work coaching that I'm doing. And then my personal website's joelbein.com. And you can, if you want to just go to joelbein.com, you can see everything through there.
All right. Thank you so much.